Hello, everyone. This is Elmer Moore, Executive Director of Scale Up Milwaukee. I'm so excited to meet with you again. Today, we're talking to Greg Nickerson. Greg, say hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Appreciate it. So just in case there's folks in the membership who don't know you, tell them what you do.
Sure, I'm chairman of Bader Rutter. We're the Wisconsin's largest marketing and advertising company. We are based down on Water Street in the old Lackey and Joyce building, and we have 300 employees. Milwaukee's our headquarters, so 250 or so of those employees are in the Milwaukee headquarters.
That's a big number. We're suddenly stricken with shelter in place or safer at home orders. How are you navigating that with almost 300 employees not going to your downtown office?
Well, I suppose we may be fortunate compared to most because we do have two other offices, one in Chicago and one in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we have had for many years people work out of their homes. We had a culture that was used to doing long distance type communications, if you will. In addition, again, in this instance, certainly it's a blessing, is that many of our clients, majority of our revenue comes from companies based outside of Wisconsin. So we're very used to using modern communications tools to communicate with them from a distance. They're from the East Coast to the West Coast, all over the country. So we had really built an organization for it. I mean, we didn't build it for this, but it was in the very back of our minds, having lived through 9/11 and some of the other crises, that someday that we may have to have a remote workforce. So having our IT systems built to handle the crush of digital pressure, they've held up great. And so, yes, it presents challenges. We're a creative collaboration business, but I'm really impressed with how our team is adjusting to that.
Greg, you all work with clients from so many different industries. What are you hearing from them about how they're adjusting to this change of life?
Yeah, in terms of our client base, again, we're sort of blessed, I would say, is that we do a lot of work in the food and agricultural chain, if you will, the whole farm to dinner plate type channel. And of course, when you go through a time like this, talk about essential services. So guess what? A farmer is going to put seed in the ground in April and May. I mean, you cannot postpone that sort of thing. And of course, as we all know, the grocery stores and, food and healthcare ultimately become, the top of the list when it comes to essential services. So that has been a plus. We actually have some clients that are doing very well. Now, we have other clients that are certainly going to struggle through this, but for our client base right now, it's not business as usual, but the revenue is still coming in. They didn't have to shut their doors like I'm so unfortunate. So many I call it consumer discretionary type businesses, retail, the travel business. We do not have clients in that kind of world, which has helped us out.
So
hold on a second, Elmer. Sorry, I realized I have my my email on. Sorry, you'll have to edit that out.
Oh,
okay.
That's okay.
Good
It
to go.
helps to know. We couldn't see it, but you're making the exact case that even in the moments when we're trying to focus on one thing, working from home, we've got to multitask. There's just information coming in from all angles. How are you finding remote work? How are you creating culture for your company while everybody's scattered across the country?
Yeah.
How are you making this work even in this new world?
Well, I'm an extrovert. I'm by nature someone who loves to be around people. So for me personally, it's not been a lot of fun. I mean, I go into the office all the time. I love, the human contact. Maybe I've got one foot in the old school and one foot in the new school. So for me personally, that's been a challenge. But certainly, my gosh, fortunately, we live in 2020, and the digital communications tools have really helped not minimize the impact of distance, if you will. Our team has adjusted amazingly well. I'm very impressed, and we have a younger workforce. Average age is probably 36. So guess what? They're kind of digital natives anyway. So for them, this hasn't been a huge adjustment. The biggest adjustment, of course, has been those who have children at home, and both spouses are working. Honestly, I don't have that situation. We don't have a cat. We don't have a pet. So it's my wife and I. We do have children in San Francisco, New York. So in the hotbeds, two sons. So we stay busy with them through FaceTime and digital tools just to help them get through this. Because you have a 6-month-old baby, our grandson, in a tiny little apartment in Brooklyn, New York. You can imagine what their lives are like right now, and both trying to work, with a baby around. So, but our team has done we use a lot of tools, Microsoft Team. I think I've literally been on 4 different video conferencing platforms in the last 24 hours. So, because I'm members of nonprofit boards who all have their chosen means of communication: Zoom, Microsoft Team, WebEx, GoToMeeting. I'm becoming expert at that. So again, though, because we have worked with people not, all in one place, that has helped us adjust better than most.
Communication in these moments is vital. You all as a company, you're professional communicators. How are you advising your clients to potentially change the messaging or means during the pandemic?
Yes, it's it's a very important thing when it comes to marketing, and that's our kind of messaging is in the marketing world. So you have to be, we've been advising our clients, go do an audit of all your digital properties, websites, social media sites. Make sure you're not posting content, or even have content that was posted some time ago that is insensitive to the world in which we live. For example, shaking hands, large group gatherings. The one area in particular that we've been counseling our clients on is the use of humor, and how you have to be very, very selective in using humor in communications in times like this. So we've had to stop running some advertising because it was just too lighthearted. There's a line there, but now's the time to be empathetic, and so humor is a tricky one for sure. We're also are counseling them. We have a lot of clients that have sales forces. I guess many companies do, but these are multiple channels and distribution systems. And so we've been counseling now that their sales force cannot, many cases cannot go out and meet with customers, how to use digital communications tools to help them do their job better. A lot of trade shows, face-to-face marketing events have had to be canceled or postponed into the late summer or fall. So how can we use modern communications tools to, say, do webinars or virtual trade shows? So those are examples of some of the solutions we've been giving to our clients. The other thing is, we've been counseling them in some instances that they shouldn't proceed with, say, a new product launch at this time. It may not be the right time. So, it's one of those things that we have to keep our customers' interests top of mind, even if it's in the short term detrimental to our bottom line.
Do you care to make any predictions about, what do you think that timeline is for, let's say, product launches or program launches? Do you think we're looking 6 months or a year?
Oh, I don't think it's a year. And quite honestly, it's industry dependent too. In agriculture, for instance, a farmer, I mean, they're probably the world experts on social distancing. Most of these farmers live, a mile or miles from the next human being. So while they have to be sensitive to things, we can probably go earlier with product messages, marketing messages to that group. Because guess what? Their world is carrying on, If you go to some other industries, where the customer, they don't have any dollars to invest right now in a new product. You got to be really sensitive to that, like, come on, you got your head in the sand here. You're trying to sell me something new and I just had to shut my doors. So it really has to be an industry by industry, customer by customer type decision. There is no, magic silver bullet that covers everything.
So Greg, I'm particularly curious. You individually and your company, Bader Rutter, have been very much leaders in engaging Milwaukee as a urban community, and you've made very significant choices to locate your beautiful new office building in a place where it might have a better impact than, let's say, the outer counties. Mm-hmm. How do you find, or what do you think the opportunities are for you folks like you and businesses like yours to help play a vital role in the recovery.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're exactly right. One of the reasons we wanted to move downtown is to become a better community partner. We weren't where we needed to be. We spent the last 3.5, going on 4 years now, making great strides there. As an organization, we are supporting a number of different nonprofits and entities. For example, the Women's Center. I'm on the board of Betty Brinn Children's Museum. So the cultural institutions of our city are really getting hammered, because the nonprofits that are supporting necessities, food, shelter, health, need to have the priority right now. But as I sit on the board of Betty Brinn, I had to shut the doors. The entire revenue stream disappeared from admissions, and we have to be very sensitive of when to reopen too. But we're not backing off from our support. We're donating dollars to those sorts of community organizations. Groups like the Greater Milwaukee Committee are awesome in terms of being connected with the community and really, I suppose, as a conduit to know where the greatest needs are. We're all busy running our businesses too, so it's very helpful to talk to peers and to hear from what I think is just a wonderful think tank type organization like the Greater Milwaukee Committee, to keep the heart beating, as much as we possibly can. This is difficult, but guess what? The sun's going to rise tomorrow and the next day and in a month and a year from now. So we need to do everything we can to be ready when the doors reopen, because they will reopen.
So you've got this platform to have a direct message to your member peers. What would you like to share with them?
Well, as I mentioned, I've been through a few crises, and one of this is unique. You can't say this is like anything I ever thought I would experience, and I wish I never had to experience. But there is some commonality with past crises: 9/11, 2007 through 9, even going back further. And that is that it creates fear, it creates anxiety. And what I've been encouraging my management team and our whole organization is, don't let that paralyze you, because it can, particularly now with everybody working from home. So in those past crises, I follow one pretty simple axiom, and that is focus on what you can do versus what you can't. And that helps you get through every day. There's things I found that we're sitting on the sidelines that now I have a little time. So let's get on it. In my conversations with Brian King, the executive director of the Children's Museum, we're focusing on what's going to look like when we get the doors reopen. We have some staff that have time now to maybe do some things they never were able to get to. So focus on what you can do is, I guess, the main piece of advice, and give yourself a little time too. You got to carve out a half hour for me time, as hard as that might be. I have a board of director member I work with that's got 3 kids at home, big time jobs, both spouses. And I was having a conversation with her. It's easier for me to say, but give yourself a half hour walk time, because this can be very consuming. We've only been through about a week and a half of this in reality. So what if this goes on for 2 months? You got to give yourself some of your own time, some peace and quiet.
I think that's great advice. So I'm going to ask you to think almost at a macro level, as a business owner who's full service marketing. What advice do you have to those business owners who are thinking about cutting their marketing budgets, just changing directions and so on?
Well, here's, at the risk of coming across self-serving, because it's not, there's much empirical data, much research and past recessions. This is based more on recessions, that those companies who stay active, those companies who maintain a presence in the communications world, do much better in the next 1, 3, and 5 years. It's quite fascinating research. Now's the time to build your brand. Now's the time to look for opportunities, because there are and there will be opportunities out there. So disappearing can send an unnerving message to your customer base, your constituency. Like, what happened to them? Are they in trouble? I mean, go look at right now what the bigger brands are doing, how they've adjusted on the fly with their TV advertising, and it's taking an empathetic tone. But what it's doing is saying, we're going to get past this. And guess what? By extension, you look at that brand and say, these guys are going to be super successful, when we get to the other side of the mountain here. So I think that's my advice. I mean, if you're in an industry where, hotels, a restaurant where you've completely lost all your revenue, it's a very difficult message to say and deliver. But there are many industries that are going to get hurt some, but not to the point where you can't continue to have a voice in the marketplace.
I agree so much. And, obviously working with the scale up businesses, we expect there to be a significant change in their employee counts. Some of them, unfortunately, probably won't survive this, but for those who do have any resources to invest, we do think staying the course, continuing to stay top of mind is really going to be a separator and a differentiator in the new market. So, Greg, as we get close to the end of our conversation, any tips on what you've learned working from home? Do you have an ideal desk setup? Have you found a new comfy chair?
Like I say, I didn't work much from home. So, you've discovered things like making sure you got enough Wi-Fi bandwidth. That's quite frankly, I do, but we have some people who live in a little more remote areas and are finding, rural areas that, it's been an issue for a long time. It's getting exacerbated here. But, what we're doing is at least every other night, if not more frequently, we have the wherewithal to go out and support local restaurants. So we live in Walker's Point. So we are picking a different restaurant, going out and doing the takeout. And, because I can, giving them a much bigger tip than normal. We really appreciate that. This is where we all have to rally. And those that have the wherewithal should do a little more in times like this. And quite honestly, it gets us out of the house too, which is a nice thing. And what I've really been heartened by is watching our employees interact. We have an internal Facebook page, which we've had for a long time. So everybody was used to it. And just seeing the home office setups and hearing the humorous stories about pets interrupting a video conference, or everybody sharing tips on how do you keep your 7-year-old, occupied while you're trying to work. And I tell you what, it puts smiles on my face many times a day, and it gives everybody an outlet too. I'd also encourage companies that I'm sure many have that, is our insurance benefit has a service where employees can call confidentially and talk through, stresses that they're having. And we have employees taking advantage of that. I'm not sure we ever would anticipated this sort of use, but encourage, don't be, and we're encouraging everybody, call these folks. That's what it's there for. And the reports back I'm hearing is it's been very helpful to them, especially when you're holed up and it's, you can't go see, doctors and psychologists, those sorts of people. So, I'm certainly hopeful there's an earlier rather than a later end of this, but, one thing we found, quite honestly, because we've had a lot of experience with this, is that our people who do work remotely will claim they're more productive and efficient than sitting in an office. And in some respects, I can see that being true. The distractions aren't as great. I'm, of a belief, some people would talk like, oh, I wouldn't want to be in the commercial real estate business, that offices are all going to shut down and everybody's going to work from home forever. I said, no, that's not. I mean, I still believe we all need human contact. I think you could see a little bit of a slide towards more work from home, because companies will realize that they actually can conduct business. And that's probably a good thing, particularly because I'm afraid Mother Nature, is going to stay one step ahead of us. And we have to learn from this and recognize there's going to be another, coronavirus somewhere down the road. So how do we make it not as disruptive as this one?
I could not agree more. So, Greg, I want to thank you for making some time for us today. Thanks for showing us the beautiful artwork you have in your home office. We look forward to reconnecting, face to face, and we would just really appreciate the support that you've shown the local businesses and to the GMC.
Well, thanks for all you do at the GMC. These are times where we all have to rally together, and I always wear my glasses half full hat, and sometimes it's a little hard to keep it on, but we all have to keep it on.
And as long as we stay connected and stay collaborating, I'm confident we'll make it through this thing well.
Absolutely.
It's great.